Hi everyone. Come in and make yourself comfortable. I hope you've got a cup of tea or coffee or whatever the refreshment of your choice is. I say that because we'll get round to formal introductions at the moment. Our speakers this morning are across the other side of the world in Australia. I'm sure they don't have any particular libation, but it would be perfectly reasonable if they did, because it's the evening there. So thank you very much for joining us today, and we will get started in a moment when we get everyone in. Recognizing some names of people here, so it's really good to welcome you in. Okay, so look, I've just done my introduction today to today's session, so I don't want to kind of repeat that, but I just want you to make sure that I've reiterated that if you haven't done so already, please download the Hoover app. You find the whole experience of this conference a lot more interactive. It gets you engaged and networking really well. You can connect and engage with people, and there's free learning through that app. There's all our exhibitor booths, there's competitions to enter, photo competitions. There's so much stuff to do. And actually on that competition space, you can win a ticket to our IEP Summit with accommodation and travel. You can get free access to level 3 and level 2 training through the IEP and free membership. There's even a bottle of bubbly in our community leadership board competition, and some prizes and shout outs for our photo competitions. That's really, really important that we get involved in that. Each day of the conference, you'll be aware now if you've been here, if this is the first time you've been here, every single day we have a different subject theme. Today, we're talking about inclusion in a virtual age, and every day we bring individual expert speakers to give their knowledge and insights on the subject. I'm really excited today that we're reaching out internationally for the first time. We have an international speaker tomorrow as well, but for the first time this week, we've got our colleagues from Australia, which is wonderful. So we've got Maria Smith here from Bounce, who'll be helping you develop your skills and build connection and trust within a digital context, and giving you the essential tools and techniques to bolster your coaching skills in the changing COVID landscape so you can deliver consistent results for your organization. She's joined and supported by the wonderful Kelly, who is there in the background as well. And so I'm really, really pleased to bring this session from Bounce and from Maria to you. So over to you, Maria.
Excellent, and good morning, everyone, and it's a good evening over here. So I'm really excited to be here and have this session with you. So I'm actually going to just start my presentation because I want to dive right into this and just share with you some insights and some stories as well. And fingers crossed we don't have an earthquake. So I'm not sure if you heard big news yesterday. We had I think it was a 6 earthquake, and for us that's massive because we just don't have earthquakes, and my whole team were on a video conference and everything was shaking, but I think we're good. So let's get started, and I'm gonna hit the go button. So I am really excited to be with you tonight, this morning, because a lot of what I want to talk about is share some of the insights and the learnings, and obviously in the context of lockdowns and COVID, but what's really happened is this virtual space. So how do we really deeply connect, and how do we create inclusion, and also how do we build resilience? So just some good housekeeping. I know that you've probably been sitting, so definitely go in and do your questions in the Hoover app. Stand up, move around as you need, because I know your cameras are off. So if you've got this on audio, move your body, and you'll see why that's really important. So one of the things that I'm not going to talk a lot about Bounce, and you can go into the app and everything's there that you need to know. But when I started my business in 2006, it was always about the focus of, how do I deeply inspire? And part of that inspiration was about connecting and finding ways to connect with people from all walks of life. And today I'm going to be sharing a few of the experiences of that sort of connection as well. So I won't go on too much about my background, but probably the most important thing for me when I think about where I am today and where it all started for me was actually this space of really wanting to make a difference and help people, and to be able to create a business that is doing that and training people to do that, and training people to be coaches in doing that is something that I completely love. I have the most amazing team, and I think they're all on tonight, which is amazing. You know, they're right in their dinner time, and they're joining us all. And one of my greatest passions right now is I'm doing a master's of applied positive psychology, which is this whole space of positive emotion and engagement, and you know, how we can increase well-being and resilience. And it's just something that I see, especially in the context of workforce, and where I see the opportunity in employment services, in the people that work in that industry and the people that we're serving, is really developing well-being strategies. So in our session, you will be learning about engagement and connection, and understanding how that connects to this idea of inclusion in this context, but also how do we develop our resilience. And those two match together, and you'll see why as I talk tonight. But also your brain. What's your brain doing in terms of why sometimes we get overwhelmed or stressed, or what are those triggers? But what are the strategies we can put in place for that, and the tools we can use to build positive emotion within ourselves and within others? But I want to take you back to probably one of the most life-changing experiences for me. So if you were with me about 5 years ago, I went out to a very, very remote community called Ramingining in the Northern Territory, and long way from anywhere. And part of this experience going out there, I was going to do some leadership training. And what happened for me was I actually didn't know I was going. It wasn't the plan, and things just happened that suddenly I was heading out to somewhere that I'd never been. I didn't have a context. I didn't know a lot of what I was going to do. So there was a lot of uncertainty and a massive amount of fear. It was a whole lot of, I don't know what I'm about to get into. And I remember arriving on a little plane to the Ramingining airport. And this is the airport. And I had so much fear. And when I tell you I had so much fear, I was trying in every way to get out of going and doing this thing and being there, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was in so much uncertainty. And for me, what happened in the experience of having 3 days with about 14 incredible human beings, and about 11 of them were elders of this area, this mob. And so the learning going in, delivering some training that I didn't write, it was something else I was delivering in a contract for Prime Minister and Cabinet. And I got in there and had this incredible moment where I went in to engage in delivering leadership skills, and I stopped, and there was this man there from the community named Norman, and he said, "Maria, take a breath, take a breath." And I took a breath, and I got really present to the room. I got really connected to the group. And in that moment, I realized that I needed to actually walk in their shoes, not come in and go, "This is how we do this." These people were leaders. They had leadership from their ancestors. They had strategies and solutions. So I went into this experience wanting to learn and grow. After the 3 days, I had this moment where Norman said, "We want to take you somewhere really special." And so we went out to the RFUSC, and we had some food, and then I had a smoking ceremony, which is what they do in order to take you to a sacred site. And what I didn't realize was that going into this experience was really quite an incredible moment for me. And this is Norman, and he had to go and he was speaking, and there was one of the other elders was inside the mangroves. Now these mangroves are these incredible mangroves with water that go out to the ocean, and there's crocodiles. There's no doubt there are crocodiles. But I had this moment where he's putting this mud, and he said, "We're going to go in here, and there's something I want to show you." Now, I suddenly was totally in the moment and thought, I trust him. I'm going to go into this experience. So I go in to the mangroves, and he looks down at this water, and this ocean water that's sort of coming in. And he says to me, "This water here is something that I want you to drink from. But Balanda, white people oftentimes don't get to taste it. And they taste ocean water. But I want you to try and see if you can taste the spring water." And I remember going, "Okay, ocean water, I'm going to be sick, but you know what? I'm going to trust in this process." So he reaches down and drinks. And this is Norman drinking. And that's the water hole that he asked me to drink from. So this is the ocean water out there coming in. And he said to me, "I want you to drink from this." And I reach down, and I take a bit of this water in my hand, and I drink it. And I look up and I go, "It's spring water." And he says, yes. He goes, manmak, which is good, good. Yes, it is. And in that moment, I felt this overwhelming sense of connection and belonging to the community. And after having this horrible, stressful experience of getting there, that I would end my journey in Ramingining feeling so connected and part of the experience of Ramingining. And there's an interesting part of this story that was, you wouldn't believe it, that occurred. And it happened a year later. But before I tell you that, let's talk about resilience. And when we think about resilience from the context of, it is this bouncing back or it's thriving, and it really is finding ways to cope when stress is occurring or finding positive ways to engage. And it's really important for us to think about this and think about, how am I engaging in my own resilience building, especially when we're living in so much uncertainty. So when I was going into Ramingining, there was so much uncertainty that was occurring, and I had to really go into the experience, but my reflection was that everything was okay and everything was going to be okay. But if we don't stop to think about what we do to plan for these things, how do we build esteem, how do we build resilience, then we can find it really challenging to cope with difficulties. So when we think about the benefits of resilience, so clearly if we can think about the self-esteem and well-being, that sense of control over life events, and right now there's so much I'm not in control of, there's so much uncertainty. So developing certainty of what can I control? For recently, I was finding myself in lockdown feeling really de-energized. So I found, what can I control? I can control my fitness. I signed up to do the Melbourne Half Marathon because, why not? But that in itself, the action of that allowed me to say, well, I'm in control of what I do there. I can get up and run, and I'm in control of that choice. And oftentimes when we think about our clients or our team members, if we don't feel a control in something, it's about getting them to find, what can I control? What is in my control? And what can I develop? So I want to share this idea of what's occurring inside the brain when we think about these ideas of developing our strengths and the things that really fill up our cup. So Daniel Kahneman's done a broad piece of work. There's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's my Bible. I love his work. It's incredible. I highly recommend you check out his work. He talks about system one. And system one is all about repetition and habits. These are the defaults. It's fast thinking, it's automatic, lazy, and low energy usage. So what does that actually mean? It means that it stores ideas and concepts and values and beliefs and memories inside that, and they can impact how we go forward. For example, the availability bias lives in system one, and biases and a lot of those cognitive biases. But as an example, if I only read this amount of stuff or only talk to this group of people, then I'm going to be impacted by my decisions based on that. So when somebody says there's no work, there's no employment, there's no opportunities, it's usually an availability bias based on who's around them, what they're reading, or what they're experiencing. And our roles as a coach is about nudging them to start thinking in system two. So system two is all about reflecting. It really is that logical brain. It monitors, controls our thoughts and actions. It has self-awareness. It takes energy to use it. And it also needs energy to work effectively. So what that means is, oftentimes when we look at system one, it's lazy and low energy usage. It's like, I just want it to be easy. So when we think about, I'm not going to eat sugar anymore, system one is like, that's just too hard, eat the bicky. But system two, if it has a plan and a strategy and a process, it really makes a difference. So when we're thinking in a context of uncertainty, the virtual connections, Zoom calls, virtual meetings, being in the space of not having that connection kinesthetically. And when I talk about that later, you'll see why this is important. What that means is that our brains aren't really operating at its optimum, the way we want it to work, so that we can feel like we're making good decisions. So some of your clients that you work with may be feeling the isolation, the disconnection, but also unresourceful because they don't know how to use technology. Although COVID has shown us that people are now engaging digitally as well. So when we have our system two working, we also have the dopamine levels that engage with us. And so when we're doing things that really engage us, we'll find we naturally have dopamine that allows us to feel rewarded and feel good. But dopamine drops over time. And so when we think about the things that can trigger us, we can suddenly find ourselves feeling unresourceful. And suddenly we don't want to make a decision. So your client's engaging with you digitally, it may automatically have them go, it's too hard, switch off. And that's why there's some strategies that help us engage with them. And oftentimes, if we're also feeling overwhelmed and triggered, we can have an emotional response to something. And when that emotional response comes in, adrenaline pumps into the body. But here's the thing, we actually can cut off the logical thinking brain to make a good thinking process. So emotional response kicks in, and then we go, it's too hard. It's too hard to dial into this call. It's too hard to be on a Zoom chat day in and day out, or it's just too hard to connect with people virtually. I don't know this, it's new and it's different. So let's think about this in the context of working with people, and not just your clients, but each other. If you're a manager, if you're a leader, this is really important to think about supporting your team through this. When we are in this context, things can feel more stressful or overwhelmed if we're not self-managing, if we're not taking care of ourselves. So having that higher self-awareness and self-regulation is really important. But guess what? It takes dopamine. It takes that system too. And if we're overwhelmed, exhausted, we're not going into logic. We're not going into strategy and planning. But leaders need to do that and be that for their people. I want to share another story with you. And this was a really interesting experience for me. I went and I was in an experience of going to do some abseiling or rock climbing down the side of a rock. And it was not a small one, but I had never done that before. And I remember I was with a fundraising group. We'd walked 140 kilometers, which was a huge amount. I hadn't even exercised for it. I was really unfit. And I was doing this with elite athletes. So Olympians and footy players and just people that are really super fit. And we went up to the edge of this cliff and it was like, okay, Maria, it's your turn. Now, when I got there, I didn't look down and I made the decision I didn't want to hijack my brain. Okay, so I logically said, don't look down, Maria, because you're going to see how far down it is. So I said, that's fine. I'm going to get on and I'm just going to stay breathing. So before I even got there, I started to breathe, which is a great way to access our system too. And I was breathing and relaxing and I was like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Go over to the instructor. He puts the belt on and I've never done this. And he said, all you'll do is put the right hand behind you and this hand here, and you just feel the tension and step down. And I just said, oh, I haven't done this before. Can you just check the belt for me? And I just double check that it's right because I haven't done this before. Now at this point, I'm getting a bit of a dopamine drop. I'm feeling a little uncertain. And my amygdala is sitting there going, fight, flight, freeze, not tend and mend as women do, but it's like, are you going to fight it or you're going to run or freeze? And I started to get the shakes. And I mean the shakes, my knees, my arms. And I looked at the instructor and he looked at me and he calmly was like, you've got this, you can do it. And at that moment, I took a breath and I thought, okay, I'm going to trust this guy. And I could feel myself feeling like, I think I can do this. And he said, all you need to do is step over the ledge. And I said, the ledge? What ledge? And then I looked down. And that was the moment that I had my hijack. And I was completely panicked and so afraid of what was occurring because I could see the drop and the ocean crashing into these rocks. And I saw my death of dropping and falling down. And I had this panic going and breathing and going, I'm not going to do this. And he said, you can do this. And I had this moment in my brain thinking, I can get out of this. I can negotiate my way out of it. I didn't have that ability because my system too was gone. So I had to say to him, I don't know that I can do it. And he said, yes, you can. And as a good coach, he held that for me and he repeated it. And the tone was what got me. Yes, you can do this. So I took a breath and I found myself feeling really quite stressed, but I went ahead and took my first step. And I felt the tension of the rope and thought, it is safe. See, there was an uncertainty before I took this because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so when I felt the tight rope, I thought, I'm actually safe. So I took another step and I started to take more steps. And there was this really magical moment where all of these people who'd already done it were over on the side of another cliff. And I'd taken this other step, and he said to me, stretch your arms out straight, stretch your legs out straight and really reach out. And I'm like doing this stretch out, and then I hear cheering, and I look over to my right, and suddenly I see everyone in my group cheering me on. And it was suddenly this amazing feeling of belonging and connection and being part of something. And in that moment, it took me to go down. Now, in my mind, I think I'm going ping, 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 but I've seen the video footage and I wasn't actually doing that, but I still did some of it. But I got to tell you, when I got to the bottom, adrenaline pumped out again. And it was the most amazing, incredible feeling to actually be in that experience and feel so good. And the adrenaline pumped in, but the dopamine pumped in because I got reward, right? I got this sense of achievement. And immediately I'm like, I got to do that again. So this is the rock, and there I am. And it's hard to see it, but you can it's pretty big. It's Western Australia and right up on the coast there, which is an incredible coastline. And it was really quite a powerful experience. But what does this all mean for you, your clients, and yourself in this context? Well, when we start to know what are the things that trigger us, what are the things that might trigger our clients? When I mean that, I mean the things that could be occurring that frustrate us, annoy us. Is it getting random text messages from people? Or perhaps getting phone calls over and over and over? Or it's a snake. I think we've got 19 breeds of deadly snakes here in Australia. I don't know how many you have over there. Or maybe it's Zoom fatigue, not with me, but Zoom fatigue. Or it's having these constant virtual meetings, or it's any of the things that might be overwhelming us or triggering us. And when we start to think of this in this virtual piece, we start to realize what's occurring for a lot of people. So when we think about the amygdala triggers in a workplace, and Daniel Goleman, who's done a bounty of research on emotional intelligence, discovered that condescension and lack of respect in the workplace. Now, think about that with your clients. If we're not deeply connecting with them or building respect, they're not going to be feeling the connection and belonging. Being treated unfairly. If we are not, my slides have stopped. If we are not feeling the experience of being treated, if we're being treated unfairly, again, it can trigger that in the workplace or just being with people. Being unappreciated. I mean, these are really logical things, right? Feeling that you're not being listened to or heard. Now, when I think about this, and I think of the idea of, are we truly in the listening of people? Are we truly connecting to people? And the power of that listening. And, I'm so passionate about this. I developed a program, the Job Coach certification, which I'm very excited to announce at IEP. We're partnering. And it is an amazing program. And I say that with the most humblest intent, because I'll tell you what, watching people go through this and listening to their feedback and having them use this program to get results all virtually. All of these pieces here are understanding what are the things we've got to do to actually increase well-being, increase engagement to system 2 and system 1, so people can engage differently with technology, with the virtual world as well. So if there are leaders out there, those deadlines, find a way to nudge it. Don't put the pressure on. Find a way that works with people. And in this context, we are all in that foggy labyrinth, like in Harry Potter, and he's going through and the fog comes in and he can't see and he can't find his way. That's what it feels like to be overwhelmed and stressed. So as a leader, as a coach, it's about finding clarity and direction and simple moves, simple, easy moves. So let's look at this idea of the inclusion idea when we're thinking about our clients, when we're thinking about our teams and the people we're working with, and just ourselves, our families. So ways we can increase inclusion. when we're thinking about the way we connect right now, there's so many tools. So we can connect with people via all of those resources, all those tools. I think the key here is that find tools where your clients are at. Meet with them where they're at. If it's Messenger, if it's Facebook, if it's, Snapchat, if it is text messaging, if it's an email, and most likely it's not email. A lot of people aren't connecting there as much. If it is a Zoom area, then it's a Zoom area, but be okay if cameras are off. Be okay with people not engaging the way we want or expect people to do. Give permission and make it easy and convenient, because system one likes it easy. If you make it difficult, if there's too many clickings, if there's too many go here, go there, everything should feel easy and convenient. One thing we miss are those incidental, water cooler, coffee time, catch-ups and talks. And so those little conversations that can make a real difference to ideas and projects, but even clients, having that nice little chit chat between one room to another, or, you greet them and take them back to a meeting room. There's some powerful conversations that can happen in that moment. So thinking about how can I create those. So in our team, we use Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app. And it's great because it's just the quick, hey, what about this? What about that? So we create our incidental conversations by doing that. But we also have fun with it and keep ourselves energized by that idea as well. Create group video sessions with the video off with your clients and make it comfortable. Now, the reason I say group, Beyond Blue over here did an interesting research on the clients that were joining onto group sessions or virtual phone sessions were far more engaged in the counseling process than they would have been had they been coming in to the counseling service. And they found that especially young people were actually getting a better result by virtual. We have a program called the Bounce program, and we run virtual Zoom sessions. And here's what's amazing. The clients will jump onto that weekly call with their videos off. But by the next week or the next week, their videos are on because they felt comfort, they felt connection and safety. So again, if there's uncertainty, that system too can switch off. So we've got to create it to be comfortable and easy and convenient as much as possible. The idea behind the group is the social proof and influence. We have clients still going, even after they've finished Bounce, since November, still joining weekly calls. And some lovely breakthrough stories where a 62-year-old gentleman who was on there and had this moment of realizing he had to reframe his beliefs, which is something you learn in our job coach certification. And he had this moment where he said, well, I can get a job. He got a job in that week. The week later, he announced it. And the 65-year-old woman on the call said, well, if you can get a job, I can get a job. And she went and got a job. That's social proof. There's a lot of power in group sessions. And then having those breakout groups for the smaller groups. If you're running bigger groups or your team is large, find smaller groups to break out. You'll find the engagement in those smaller groups are actually really powerful. It's a bit safer to share, and they might share more in that smaller group versus a larger group context as well. So it allows that building of connection to take place. And you know what? Have some fun with your virtual connections. You don't always have to have an agenda and a meeting. And sometimes it's just worth getting on there and spending 30 minutes with your team to make it fun, to make it enjoyable. So when we think about the social connection, it's really incredible. There's some amazing research, and I'm going to speak to this in the context of how we are truly creating inclusion and connection. And when we have social connection, we do have a bigger impact with people. And when you think about your models and how you're delivering your programs, having that connection and tribal feeling like I belong, I'm part of something, engages system one and system two. And we understand people better because we're present, we're in our listening of who they are. We can actually engage and pay attention to the micro movements or the nuances of their communication. That pickup means that we're really going to start listening, and we can coach in even more effective ways. And it also deepens your connection, and it actually makes us happier people. So at the end of the day, connection is powerful. Because the other side of this, and Matthew Lieberman, I highly recommend his book. Hopefully you can see my video. I highly recommend his book. He's done some incredible research. He's got a TED Talk. And now this is 1985, but what's interesting, this is from his book, but here's what's interesting is over 6 months, Who are the people with whom you discuss matters important to you? In 1984, the most common number was 3. In 2004, the most common number was 0. And 1 in 4 people do not feel that they have anyone to confide in. Now, this was back then, right? 2004. What would it be now? Now, virtually, we've found a way to connect more. There are ways of connection, but how authentic is our connection? And that's the part that's really interesting, because part of connection means mirror neurons fire off and we get to connect and belong. And mirror neurons are these incredible things that happen to make us feel connection and sameness. Our brain likes sameness. And that's the challenge we have, because oftentimes our biases get in the way of truly connecting with people. So again, if I have enough self-awareness, I can notice a bias and say, that's in the way of me connecting with somebody. So here's what's interesting about that. If I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm stressed out, overwhelmed, I'm in system 1, there's no chance I'm going to get system 2 engaged to find a better strategy or solution. So this is why it is crucial to start thinking about, how do I take care of myself as a coach, as a leader, to help people that I serve? How am I going to implement that? Now, here's another bit of interesting research. So when we think about physical pain, in the region of the brain that you see there, that's where we experience physical pain. Now, when we think about language, when somebody says they've broken up with somebody and they have a heartbreak, or there's a sadness or a loss and they lose someone, and it is a sad, painful experience when we lose someone. So here's what's interesting. Matthew Lieberman's a neuroscientist, so he's done a lot of research in this space. But here's what's interesting. Social pain, we experience social pain in the same region that we experience physical pain. So when people feel disconnected, when people feel isolated or not included, this is what's experienced in their mind. So suddenly we wonder about people feeling de-energized or unhappy, depressed or anxious. And in a lot of ways, it can be cured with feeling like we're part of something and we're connected. And in a virtual world where that connection isn't so kinesthetic, it's not so tactile, that we have to find ways to really engage with it. We have to find solutions for our clients that can allow their brain to feel a belonging and to feel a connection. So the other interesting part of his research is that they actually had given subjects Tylenol or Panadol or acetaminophen for 6 weeks. And what they were able to discover is that those that were experiencing heartache, as in a broken heart, as in sadness, felt better from taking that. So I find that really powerful when I think about, like, don't run out and take Tylenol because you're feeling sad, but actually it's more about how real it is for people to actually feel a social connection, not included or being pushed aside. And in the context of those people who are thriving in this world, are people that can engage with technology and people that can find a way forward. So we have to be thinking about, how do I engage my people onto the journey? How do I skill them up to learn to engage with a device, with their phones, with Zooms and phone calls and apps and things like that, to allow them to feel connected again in a new way, and a new way of being connected. So when we think about, and as you reflect on this, is how you build your connections. And when you start to think about this, is that you're taking your social and self-connection to the next level. So it really is important to be thinking about this. So where am I going with these connections? Do I consciously pick up my phone and connect with somebody? Have I made it a conscious effort to make sure my team's okay, my clients are okay, my family? And making a very conscious, deliberate effort to do that will mean that not only will you get a reward from that connection and that oxytocin gets released and we're happy with that, but it also means they get that connection as well. So don't underestimate the power of that. And my music just started, which I think is really great because it was sort of like timely, but it was not intentional. I need to turn it off. So the other thing is to be aware. of the people and situations around you and make adjustments. This is huge in terms of making an adjustment to things. Just because this is the way we go, it doesn't mean we don't stop and say, is this working? Is this strategy with this client or with my team working? You know, do I need to shift something here? And take that feedback, be in the listening. Did I listen to my client, and am I paying attention? And what's the adjustment I might need to make? Finding solutions that match them. When I said earlier to meet them where they're at, I think in the context of COVID right now in Australia, and a lot of the areas where we've had increased numbers, it's because there wasn't an opportunity to go into the communities and engage with community leaders, to engage with the social networks of that community. There wasn't the meeting them where they're at. There was this, oh, we've got an ad campaign, we've put something on social media. Not everyone's there. And so we've got to think about, where do I meet my clients and where do I meet them where they're at? And it means making some adjustments, and sometimes that can be challenging. So the other thing is that we think about the rules and strategies. So keep these strategies and use them regularly, because you want to use this knowledge and continue to use it. So why is that important? Because our system 1 by default is lazy. If we don't have a process or a system for system 2 to design, system 1 will get away with stuff because it is the one that doesn't like using the energy. So it conserves the energy. It says, oh, let's just do it easy. So when you decide to create a habit, system 1's like, yeah, we'll do it. That feels good. But it doesn't stick to it because system 2 didn't get engaged. So again, thinking through that lens of having a strategy and checking it means that I'm creating a habit into system 1 that's a good habit. But I've got to engage system 2 to create that. So think of your clients who are in system 1. You've got to find little rewards that nudge them into you using system 2. But if you make it complex and complicated, they're switching off because it's too hard. They're not turning up, they're not attending appointments, they're not going to the training courses, they're not engaging because it feels in their mind too hard. Now in your mind, you might think, no, that's not, why aren't they turning up? I don't get it. Because we haven't found a solution. You've got to put the client at the center. The client at the center. So do things that will keep you happy, motivated, and healthy. So I always love this, fill up your cup. And I spoke at a conference back when we could go to physical conferences, and we actually had cups made. And it had the brain on there, and it was the fill up your cup, and everything you can do to bring the idea of feeling good. So things that bring dopamine, so we're having logical thought, are exercise, walking, deep breathing, meditation, or mindfulness is enough. Just to get really present and clear and in that moment is enough to bring that feeling on. You know, taking the moment to get aware, being with people, connecting with people authentically, like genuinely connecting, is so important for that. And the other side of that is to start to think about other things that bring you joy and do those things regularly. Because again, if you're in the labyrinth and it's all foggy, you need to have a system and a strategy so system 2 can jump in and engage as well. So something to really think about and something to consider. Now, before I finish, I actually think I might just throw back to the, I'll jump on my little app here and just throw back in. And I'm just wondering, I'm just going to check. I know that if there's any questions, I'll come through. But I'm just curious right now, and if anyone wants to throw in the chat, what are the things you're committing to after this? What are you going to do today? Is it a walk? Is it make a call that you've avoided, or check in with a client? Is it really authentic connections where you're listening and your looking is really connected to them? So there's that authentic connection. So I'd love to see what you're doing and what you're going to be committing to so that you are fully engaging in your own experience. And think of it like this. One of the modules in Job Coach is called, the first one's called Clear State, because it's all about how am I being in the communication with my clients? How am I supporting them? How am I helping them? And what that means is it starts with me. So if I don't do a reset between my clients, between my meetings, between my calls, then I could be carrying the stories that have just been told, and my system 1 is going, oh, that story was horrible. Oh my God, what do I do? How do I help? And suddenly I go and engage with my client, and mirror neurons trigger off, and suddenly they don't feel so good because they're connecting with me and they trust me, but they're wondering why they're feeling uneasy. But it could be me giving them that experience. So Really important to bring awareness to how you do that. So I'd love for you to pick up your app and jump in there and pop in what you think you'll be doing. So I think you can go into the chat function there and all the things you can do. And then if we hear any of those things,
so we've had some comments while we're waiting for people to pop that in there. We've had some comments. Yes. Hillary said that this is a great session and she's really enjoying it. I'd mentioned that I need to make sure I'm moving more from system 1 to system 2. And Hillary agrees that it's always powerful to consider. And I've just remembered, I think, Maria, to the last time we were on a session like this, and I think I was procrastinating on moving house and packing boxes, wasn't I?
Yes.
And we discussed it. And, you know, one of the people in the group, Martin, he has been on some of the sessions this week. I'm not sure if he's here. He followed up and he made sure I got that from system 1 to system 2 at the next week.
Awesome.
So it was really good. So, and I did. I'm now in my new house. So you did help. You had a massive impact. I got packed and I got here. So thank you for that.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And you know what? That's a great example of the little things, those little nudges that make the difference. And this is what I want you to think about for yourselves and then your clients, is that it doesn't need to be a marathon. It doesn't need to be a half marathon. Seriously, it's just the littlest things. I'm going to clean my desk and that's going to feel good. That's today's outcome. And if we get that outcome, we feel good. So do it so it's achievable and it's something you can really do. But in this context of being in this digital virtual space, we have to think about our clients and meet them where they're at. So what's going to work for them and how do we nudge their behavior so we can get them into system 2? And again, I think there's a lot to be said about virtual group sessions and getting them to feel connected and belonging with other people as well.
Excellent. We've had Sylvia's having a walk at lunchtime is one of her things that she's going to do from 1 to 2. And it can make such an impact, can't it, on how we feel mentally and how we approach the afternoon. A great idea.
It's a great way to reset. Oftentimes, though, the dopamine levels, and I would have talked about this last time, the dopamine levels drop over time. So we can maybe be energized in the morning. Some of us are morning people, and we can be really energized. And then maybe that 3 or 2 o'clock mark, but then maybe 4:30 when you know you're knocking off and it's like, oh, I'm energized again. And you can get that little dopamine. So it does move through time. And so what's important is know yourself. Know what's best for me. So if you're working with clients that are challenging, if you've got to have a difficult conversation with somebody, do it when you know you've got dopamine, because you're going to be in system 2 and it's going to be a better, more interpersonal. You'll choose your words. You'll know how to frame. You'll know how to influence and get a message across as well. And I think that's a huge part of coaching in any context, any communication, is that I am in that system 2. So I can actually read them and make sure what I'm framing up or saying is going to help them get to where they want to go as well.
Wonderful. So Sharon has said she's going to develop the social aspect for clients and maybe do some group work.
Love it. Yes, group work is amazing. It's amazing watching. We run our bounce program face to face, and COVID happened. We were like, okay, well, let's run it virtually. And we've got the most amazing coach running these sessions. And like I said, people are still turning up because they can. They don't pay for that. It's free. It's part of the program. They're still showing up since November because it's their connection and their belonging. So it's really powerful to give people a place to be as well. Fantastic. I don't see where those chats are, but you've got it covered.
Some of them, they're coming up in different places just to fox you. And Sylvia said, have breakout sessions for customers to connect. So that's a similar thing that she's committed to doing. So we can follow. Sylvia's a regular on our Live Learn Lunch series. So I can follow up with her on that and let you know how we get on with that. So those are those ones. I think you can probably see the others. Cheryl has said, absolutely awesome. I want to see this again. Well, the good news, Cheryl, is we have recorded the session and it will be shared via the Hoover app and also on the YouTube channel afterwards. Because as I said, we always have a great session when we have Maria on.
Awesome. Now I've got a bit more. I'm seeing all these chats, so I've got one little bit more of a story to tell, if that's okay with everyone, because I know we go till 8. Whatever. What time is it there for you guys? 11:15. 11.
Yes, it's much earlier for us, Maria. So we're fine. We can keep going.
Okay, awesome. So I just want to tell you a little story. So I told you about Ramingining, And a year after being in Ramingining, I went out again to a place called Gulawinku. And Gulawinku is, it is heaven on earth. It was just so beautiful. And I thought, I am so lucky I get to have this experience. It was so much different to when I went to the first trip before I got there, and all this uncertainty and fear. Suddenly I knew what I was going into. I knew how I was going into the experience. The difference is I was going in to do train the trainer. For me, I left community in Ramingining and I said, you know what, let's build capacity. Why should we be flying? There's enough wisdom and knowledge within this community. Let's build capacity. And that was a dream come true, to go in and deliver a train the trainer. And so when I got to Gulawinku, the most beautiful ocean, the sand, it was incredible. And I've got lots of photos, but not for this presentation, but oh, so gorgeous. So if anyone wants to see photos, I'm happy to send them through. So what happened though is I went out and I delivered the training, and this magical moment where I talked about one of the frames around training. And what was really interesting is that I asked one of the women in the group, and this woman was, her family were families of elders, but they had passed, so she was an elder. And she was sharing with me how the stories would be handed down, and the stories are the Dreamtime stories and their song lines. And the idea that song lines were singing into existence what was coming forward. And I think that's a really powerful metaphor to think about when we work with our clients, when we engage with them. How are we singing them into existence? Do we sing them as possibility and potential? And I think that, to me, is the key in any of the coaching contexts that we have, working with people and being with people. But for me, the magic moment was I had delivered this training, and then they said, oh, we want to take you somewhere really special. And so we went out again to the most beautiful little waterfront area, and Lisa is her name. And as we walked, she said, oh, this is my land. And I said, it's beautiful. And we walked into the ocean, and it was just like the waves lapping. And she looked and she said, all of this is where I've grown up. And I said, this is incredible. And I probably didn't mention this, but one of the things that mostly people were speaking Yungamara, so they were not speaking English was second language. So oftentimes I had an interpreter. And so Lisa had actually pretty good English. And while I was there was this moment where I thought about my experience in Ramingining. But then they were talking about this beautiful, powerful word in Ramingining called Gadaman, which is a word of leadership. It's how they described leadership. Gadaman was being connected to something higher and being grounded and humble, but coming from the heart. And Monmon was their word for integrity. Like, if I speak and lead from my heart, I can truly be present. And so when I went to Gulawinku, they were talking about language, and they also spoke Yungamara in this particular area. There's 145 different languages, Aboriginal languages. And they mentioned this word. They said, Maria, there is one word we want you to learn. It's Wangang Manapanmir. And I've memorized it. I had to get there, and I know I've said it, but it was Wangang Manapanmir. And they said, this is coming together as one. And I had this moment as we're walking out, and she was sharing this, and they were talking about Wangang Manapanmir, and I said, I've got to memorize that. That's one of those words that's so powerful. And then we stood, and I felt, I didn't have shoes on, and I could feel the waves lapping on my feet, and we were standing around. And they said, Maria, this is a spring. And I said, oh. And they said, we want you to drink from this. And I said, oh. And immediately I'm like, but this is the ocean now. No, I can see the ocean, and I see the waves lapping in. And they said, we heard of you in Ramingining, and we heard of you drinking from the spring, and we knew you tasted spring water, and we know that you are connected, and you are connected to us, and that it is that Wangang Manapanmir. And so we want you to drink from our spring. And in that moment, I felt a beautiful, deep connection. And I bent down, and I was nervous, I'll be honest. I thought, this is going to be salt water, because it is salt water. And I took a drink, and it was spring water, and I could taste the spring water. And I thought, that must have been a fluke. So I kept drinking and kept drinking. And it was spring water. And Lisa said, we want you to know that these two springs are connected. They actually join under the earth and they come together as one. And we want you to know that that connection is what connects all of us. And that I can stand here and be with you and you're over there in the United Kingdom. And even though I'm not there, and I would love, love, love to be there, and one day I will, I can still feel a connection. And I know I can feel that belonging even in this moment. And I think when we start to really tap into that, something really powerful and profound can take place. And one of the moments for me, when I was back in Ramingining and I'd had a dream the night after drinking the water, and one of the guys said, Maria, what did you dream last night? And one of the elders and another interpreter told me, he wants to know what you, I said, I dreamt of a woman coming to me, a younger woman speaking to me in language. And I woke up, I literally woke up speaking back. And they said, describe the woman. And I did. And the elder, Peter, he spoke in language. And Robert, who sat next to me, he turned to me and he goes, you dreamt of his mother. And this means, you know, you are welcome in here. You are now welcome to our community. So when I look back at that memory, and the reason I share this is because I went there with so much fear and uncertainty and doubt, and I wanted to get out of it. And I think, oh, it was the most incredible life-changing experience for me, and something I will forever take with me no matter what I do. So when we think about the world that we are in right now, it's about finding what is truly deeply connecting us so we can have the one gang manapanmir, and we can find a way to connect our clients in more deeply and more authentically, and find a way to actually have them re-engage with their system 2 and their system 1 both together. So that is my presentation for today. And again, this is a link to the new landing page right now with our IEP job coach certification. This is like coming soon. It's a big announcement. We're so excited. And it's been a really fantastic journey working with Scott and Helen, and Kelly's been amazing on this journey. So we're really excited to be announcing it, and it'll be coming your way very soon. And inside all of that is everything I'm talking about is in this, everything about the science and how it works, but the application. How do I use it? And when do I use it? What am I asking? What am I looking for? It's all in there with lots of processes, simple models, strategies, and scripts, so you can continue to connect deeply with your clients and continue to make the difference that you do. So I'm happy to take any questions right now. And if anyone's got any questions, I'm not sure.
Excellent. Well, we do have a question. Jeanette has said she didn't realise how engaged she was with your presentation and how quickly the hour has gone. Is there a connection with being in the moment, perception of time, and dopamine release?
Oh, I love that. So, oh my gosh, we could have a whole other hour. So Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi has done a broad body of work on flow and fully researched flow state, which has us be so present in a moment, so connected to that moment. We lose time and we don't feel a sense of distraction. We're totally present in the moment. And if that's an achievement you had, you bet your dopamine's going to engage, because the brain is feeling rewarded and engaged in the experience. The more we can create flow, the more we can actually feel energized with what we do. And just another distinction on flow is that the more we develop our skills, so if we can develop our skills and we have high skill, but a high challenge, we enter flow. So interesting to think about, what are the skills I need to, grow and develop and bring awareness to and get my system to engaged in? How do I develop it? But how do I challenge myself, get out of my comfort zone, take the flight to Ramingining, call that client that I've been avoiding, ask a different question, find a new way to see them as the possibility of who they can be in the world. That's a great question.
I knew you'd like it when it came in.
Oh.
So we've got lots of people are saying, Darren saying he's loved it, Tina saying thank you, this was amazing, Dahlia said, thanks, really enjoyed it. So I could read lots and lots. I've been trying to put the names of all the people you've mentioned into the chat. I have found Mahaley, but that was tricky for me,
Yes.
But I've got it in there for you so people can look those people up and look those bodies of work up. Dahlia has said, singing people into existence is such a beautiful concept.
Yeah, yes, the song lines are so beautiful. And a really, just a little side story. I was in Washington, D.C., and a good friend of mine said, I don't know why, Marie, I've got to go to the bookshop. I need to buy you a book. I said, oh, okay. And hands me a brown paper bag with this book, and I pull it out, and it's the song lines. And he said, and at this point, I hadn't been out in remote community in Australia. He said, I don't know why you need to read that book. And it was that trip that I got home that it was the, hey, we need you to go out. And I thought, that's amazing. And yeah, it is to be out there and hear, like Norman in particular, there's a whole lot of stories, a lot of experiences that happened out there. And I just shared a little snapshot, but the song lines and his storytelling of, we went into one area that I'm so privileged to have been able to go in and see. And he said, this is where our ancestors walked. My father's fathers walked. And this is where the dinosaurs walked. And we sing this into existence. These are our song lines. And I love that thought.
Amazing, thank you. So we've had lots more thank yous coming in, but we've got one final comment I will share with you. Parveen has said, great session, the circle of life and the application and how to be part of the circle. Thank you. So I think it's a lovely comment for us to finish on. And yes, I think Scott will be rejoining us as well. So thank you, Maria.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. I absolutely no idea how I can follow that, so I won't even try. I mean, that was absolutely inspirational, and I was engaged throughout. And if Maria knows me very well, that actually I can get distracted quite easily. And so the fact that I listened to everything throughout that presentation, I think is testament to your ability to deliver fast stories and really great stuff. And that's the reason why the IEP is partnered with Bounds to bring these coaching skills and techniques to the UK. So we're really excited about bringing that to people in the next few weeks. Fingers crossed we get everything in place and we get that out to you as quickly as possible. So that is happening. Just a reminder now, Maria, all the kind of uninteresting stuff, but the next session is really interesting, and we've got Hilary Clifford from the Association of Colleges very soon at 11:30. So make sure you follow the link in the app. But the interesting but uninteresting stuff is just reminding you to use the app, enter the competitions, go to the exhibitor stalls, go and see what you can do. Lots of prizes to win, lots of things to do, lots of ways to connect. You get the best benefit from this conference if you use the Hoover app. There is no doubt about it, and people are feeding back really great at the moment about how they're interacting and how they are engaging and meeting new people and doing really great stuff, all to bring us together and try and make the world a smaller and more joined up place. And it's great to end with our thanks to Maria and Kelly from Bounce, all the way over there in Australia, even given earthquakes and everything else. They are here this morning, and we're so very grateful to everything that they do for us, because it's so wonderful. So thank you very much, Maria and Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me here and letting me be part of the experience and to be able to share and connect with people. So thank you.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. And just a reminder, once again, back here on a different link, but through the app, really easy to do, for Hilary Clifford from the Association of Colleges, who will be looking at rapid change and growth with the AOC through adopting a digital-first approach on the onset of the pandemic. Over the last 18 months, their service has grown significantly, reaching thousands of new people working within colleges, creating a louder and more diverse range of voices, and they've created many new products and services to meet those member requirements. So Hilary will be looking at the challenges and the approaches they've taken and the impact that's made, as well as the future plans to build on that and to provide a more inclusive and informal relationship with their member organisation, the staff working within them. So all that college group. So really looking forward to that. See you again at 11:30. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott.